Hey everybody, no new episode this week. I'm away on tour. You can come check me out in Breckenridge, Colorado on the 20th. That's the day this is coming out. Or in Philadelphia in a couple days, New York City on July 3rd. All the info and dates in the link and in the show notes and the bio and social. You get it. Anyways, we wanted to air one of our favorite conversations like we did with Jeffrey's episode recently. This is with Stephen Fishbach, who is a friend and a podcast host and a writer, and he did that show that one time. And I hope you enjoyed the conversation a lot. It was one of our favorites so far. Can't wait to revisit it. Anyways, new I'm Trying Harder coming up next week. It's a weird one. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, just thanks for listening. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a review on iTunes. Apple Podcast. iTunes is dead. iTunes is dying. Apple Podcast. You get it. We love you. Thank you. Bye.
For like months afterwards, I had this like numbness in my head, and I thought that I had a brain injury. And this was really traumatizing to my sense of self, because I've conceived of myself throughout my life as my intellect and my brain is my like salient part. Yeah. And so to have this fear of like, oh, I've screwed it up. I damaged the best part of me. Like, all of my potential is now squandered and gone.
There were clouds where it was Bounty Killer, and then Gwen Stefani had Eve. Remember that one?
Well, I mean, Gwen Stefani's been killing it for a long time, man. She's so good. Anyways.
Welcome to I'm Trying, this show where we try our best and we don't succeed, but then sometimes we do. And we get what we want and what we need.
Are we just using this last week's same?
No, there was a remix on it.
Okay. We did a remix.
Oh, that's the Jacob Scratch?
Yep, there you go.
DJ
JD! What's your name? Sorry, I forgot.
Oh. I'm like, what are we waiting for? That's another Gwen Stefani song.
Introduce yourself.
What you waiting for? My name's Janelle Dennis.
I'm Jacob Durrow, and thank you very much for joining us for episode 8. 8 is great. We're so glad you're here. This is already off the rails. You are joining us.
You say that every single time too.
Yeah, because we're off the rails all the time. We're crazy, man. We're Comics Unleashed, 1 a.m. CBS. Let's go. Anyways, today's episode is with the wonderful, kind, sweet, intelligent, generous with his time, Stephen Fishbach, who I have admired for an extensive amount of time.
I don't think he's a real person, to be honest.
Why's that?
He's just not. He's an android. Like, he's a bot come to life.
He's a bot.
A bot.
I don't know if you'd appreciate being called a bot.
Yeah, because a bot is, like a customer service bot. They're the most friendly ones.
There's a big thing in the Survivor fan community is people get called game bots sometimes.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, some people like it's like they people who are so focused on the strategy and the game of it that they don't.
That would be a compliment to me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, to people, it's like a way of saying like they're not friendly, they're unfeeling, they don't have empathy for the other players.
Oh.
I think it has.
Isn't the whole point of these games like, I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to win?
Oh, well, you need to make friends.
Every reality TV show, there's always someone that says that.
Well, it comes from Survivor. It was Kelly Wigglesworth, season 1.
Kelly Wigglesworth,
the runner-up of season 1, is the person who said that, and it's become canon in like television. So, oh god, the mic's falling. So that's where
I'm not here to make friends.
That's literally where it comes from. So
I like to say that in every meetup that I show up to.
Not here to make friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. It is funny. But yeah.
High school reunion. I'm not here to make friends, but we are your friends. I'm here to lose them.
I need the money. There is no money.
Shut up, Shelly.
I just want to make it clear that not every episode. I know we've had 2. This is our second Survivor guest in the first 10 episodes, and I just want to say out loud that this is not a Survivor show, but to get on a show like that, you have to oftentimes be interesting. You have to have an interesting life and an interesting career or an interesting personality. And so by being a part of this little thing, I've managed to meet a lot of really interesting, delightful people, Stephen included. So that's why he's here. Not just because of Survivor, because he's a fantastic writer with an awesome podcast called Paraphrase. He's just a kind, good guy, and he was nice to talk to.
Man, also, like, I don't know why people are so embarrassed about reality TV. Like, he's not, right?
Yeah, I don't think he is.
But I've seen a lot of contestants from other shows. They're like, I don't want to be associated with that, and I understand. But what I'm trying to get at is I'm hoping that one day we can have a guest from Bad Girls Club or Flavor of Love or I Love New York or I Love New York 2 or
Electric Boogaloo. I'm sure we will. Look, I mean, reality.
No, we won't.
You never know, man. Reality television's a funny thing because at the end of the day, people who
those are the kind of shows that I watch where there's fights.
I assure you that if these people are on reality shows, they would have nothing wrong going on a podcast to talk about themselves. There was an event this past weekend at a club in New York City run by Andrea Belke.
Excuse me.
Am I going to leave that in?
You can, but now there's this weird silence.
I want to milk the silence.
You need to put in some sound effects or something. Like a burp and then a
That burp is just going to be like echoing for like 2 seconds. So Andrea Belke, who's a friend of our show, she's been on the show, and Meg Malley from Big Brother do a thing every year for the past couple years where they do a Survivor Big Brother reality show person meet and greet, like a club. They'll like rent out a space.
Like a reunion.
Well, no. It's a charity fundraiser. So fans will fans can buy a ticket to come hang out in this like in a space with all these people and mingle with all their favorite reality show people. And so this past weekend it was at Slate in Manhattan.
I know Slate.
Yeah,
I've been there a few times.
There you go. It's an interesting venue, and I went. I wasn't really planning on going because I sometimes get a little bit awkward at these events because I'm not really good at the whole club bar thing, and also like I feel a little weird when it's like look at all these like mega all-stars from all these shows who are like 4-time players and champions and like they've built a career off and then hi I'm here too. It's a little weird.
Hey, remember me?
Yeah, no, that's how it feels, right? And so I went, but I had
that's why you gotta milk it. You just gotta like change your whole entire personality and come back as a pro wrestler and be like, oh, you thought you knew Jacob?
Sunday, that's monster.
You show up, there's just like dry ice machine in the corner. I go by Derwin.
Well, I'll show you a quick picture. Just I think it perfectly illustrates my time there.
The listeners can't see the picture.
I'll put a link to it.
Okay.
So it's a series of pictures actually in particular.
I know I turned into The Rock for a second. The listeners can't see the picture.
The point is, it's a cool event, and so I ended up going, and it was really, really lovely because I got to meet and mingle with a lot of fans and stuff, and even meet some alums from the show I hadn't met before who I admire. And I had this moment towards the end of it where there was a person on the show a long time ago. Her name's Courtney, and Courtney I was 12. When she appeared on the show for the first time.
Whoa!
I was 12 when she appeared on the show. It was 2007. Survivor China. And Courtney Yates is iconic from the show. Everything about her. She's sarcastic and hilarious.
I feel so old.
I'm sorry.
Continue.
I'm sorry. She's wonderful. She's hilarious. She's sharp. She does not give a damn about what you think about her. I've always admired her. And she's been... Iconic's a weird word to use, but at least in terms of Survivor, I think definitely one of the most notable people who's been on the show. Mm-hmm. And so I've met her 2 or 3 times now, and we've talked a little bit here and there. And I had this moment at the end of the night when I was getting ready to say goodbye, where I said goodbye to Courtney. And it's okay if Courtney hears this. I told her this already. And I was saying goodbye to her, and I realized like we were hugging, and I literally like looked at her, and my first thought was, and I said it out loud, I said, "This is weird. Do you know how weird this is? This is weird." And she goes like, "This? What do you mean it's not weird?" And I'm just like looking at her like, no, you don't realize. I've like been a fan of yours and admired you for over 10 years.
So it's weird for you.
It's weird for me, not for her. It's the feeling of getting the same reaction out of people, everyday people who watch the show, that somebody
who you've admired on the show gets. The fact that there were fans who came up to me and were like freaked out and were like excited and also kind of like scared to meet me. And meanwhile, I'm planning a picnic with someone I admired from the show who I've known, not known, but known of for a decade. It was this crazy moment. And she's so super chill about it and so relaxed about it. But inside me, I'm just like, how is this real? It's a weird
That's how
thing.
life works.
It's. Have you had that moment where you had someone you admired, or it could be a comedian, an actor, a business thing, whatever?
Yeah, a bunch of people. But I feel like that's very. Yeah, when you're entrenched in a community, it's just natural. You're going to.
It's just something. It's something. Anyways, this picture. There was a photographer going around that night. I think this picture perfectly illustrates my approach to clubs and bars. This is a picture of Meg, who helped run the event from Big Brother, and her family. It's a very sweet picture. I'll zoom in on them a little bit. It's a very sweet picture. They're posing. And if you look closely in the background, if you zoom in a couple times, you can see me sitting on my phone in the back room getting a breather from all the people for a few minutes, and I just happen to be behind the glass.
You look like you're looking right at the camera, though. Like you're trying to...
I must have seen the flash and looked at the exact right moment, because, like...
You look like the Dos Equis man, like a younger version.
Stay thirsty, my friend. I just wanted to share that picture. But, yeah, so it was a really cool event, and I'm really glad I went, because I was apprehensive about going. It was nice to, like, do that again and, like, just meet people. And
that picture reminds me very much of Robin. I'm in the corner
watching you cancer. Oh. So anyways, our guest Stephen today is a Survivor alum. That's probably where most people know him from, but he also does a podcast with Rob Sesternino about the show every week. He writes for People magazine, and most notably, the thing I'm excited about, he started a podcast called Paraphrase, where he talks to authors about their novels, about their books, and how they started as writers and how the book got started. And these are not like small potatoes. We're talking some pretty big names, some pretty well-acclaimed authors, books that, you know, if you go to Barnes & Noble and ask if they have it, they've been sold out for weeks. Like these are he's getting some pretty high-profile people. So if you're a literature fan, if you're into the new modern works, like, this is a really specific... Like, this podcast plays specifically into your interests. And I've listened to, I think, all the episodes so far, and they've all been really, really great.
Yeah. I mean, he dressed up for the interview, which was, you know...
I think he had an event afterwards.
Really nice. Oh, I thought he dressed up for us. Wow. You didn't need to blow his cover like that. I thought you... Steven, see like the type of people that you think you have someone's back and then they don't. I just want you to know that if I knew that you were dressing up for another event, I would have never brought that up. I would have taken that to the grave. Just putting it out there.
I still appreciate
where the loyalty lies.
I was wearing probably jeans and a t-shirt, so I appreciate it still. Anyways,
it was a very special, momentous occasion for which you wore a tie, just for us.
Thank you, Stephen, for coming on, and I hope you guys enjoy the episode with the wonderful Stephen Fishbach.
As my mind often does, you know, I flashed back to this moment in Cambodia, in Survivor Cambodia, in Cambodia, Survivor 31, Second Chance. That was my second time playing on the show. My first time playing, I did really well. And I was the runner-up on the season, and I felt like I was really well represented in the show's story that they aired about me. And I went back with the second time, you know, thinking like I want to do more, I want to do better, but not ever having the sense that I might really embarrass myself. And
why would you think that? You killed it the first time.
Well, right. You know, you always are aware of the possibility that you'll embarrass yourself, but you know, you kind of have an idea of, you know, when you're going out there, you have this sort of vision of yourself, like operating as your best self. And when I went out my first time, I was 29 years old. I was decently comfortable with my life, but at 35, when I went up for my second time, or 36, however old I was, I felt really comfortable with myself. You know, I was an executive at MTV. I had, you know, a staff that worked for me. I felt like a successful guy, very self-assured, you know, and so I thought, I'm going to step onto that beach and I'm going to be my self-assured self. And, I'm not going to be the alpha guy. I'm not going to be the jock or the super, I'm not going to be able to build the shelter, but I'm going to be confident. I'm going to be able to engage with people. My first time out, I was really nervous meeting people from different backgrounds from me, and it proved to not be a challenge. And so the second time I thought, well, that was not a challenge the first time. It won't be a challenge now. And it was hard. I immediately didn't gel with the people around me, which put me on my back foot. I found myself scrambling around, trying to make inroads into this group of people and really reverting very quickly back to my, all of my high school insecurities in this crazy way, which was like shocking to me. It was almost like interesting from a sociological perspective. Like as it was happening to me, I was also observing it. I was like, I am this like confident mid-30s guy in my daily life. Why am I now an insecure teen, in this moment when it really, really, really matters the most that I be confident,
What did teen Stephen look like?
I mean, he was like gangly. His limbs were all over the place, like he didn't have like control of his body, he just like, uncomfortable around the jocks, and it's crazy just how I honestly what do you think, Jacob? Why does it happen? Like, why? I mean, did you have a similar experience where you felt like you were regressing?
I had the exact same experience, except I didn't bounce back from it. That's really it.
They didn't give you a second chance.
No. Honestly, what you just described is literally what happened to me. So, it's very literal, and maybe that's just the experience of the type of us who gets cast. I don't know on this show, but it. For me, I never bounced back. I never had that moment to recover. And Stephen still, you're underselling it a bit. You still went pretty far in the second season. Obviously, you didn't come in second place again, but you still did really well. You made the merge. You made moves. But I don't know why it happens. I think it might be, and this is maybe giving me too much credit. It might be because a lot of the people who go out there and that we're around with have thrived from that mentality. If you're surrounded by people who are still kind of playing the high school game because it's always worked for them, right, and you're not playing it anymore because it does not work for you remotely, like ourselves, it kind of becomes hard to fight what everyone else is doing. It's a whole different. When I didn't play with Savage and Jeremy like that. I don't know how they are. I've never met them, but I'd imagine it can't be that dissimilar from when I played with Brendan and Michael.
Right.
So,
And I really could have had a similar experience to you had I been on a group that lost repeatedly.
Yep.
Like if I had been on your group, I might have been eliminated, just where you were, and not had that chance to find my footing. And then I would have happily. Well, I mean, we all have our regrets. So what ultimately, though, to me was my most embarrassing moment, and also one of the most challenging moments in my life, was a couple of weeks later. We had this monsoon in Cambodia. And it just dumped on us nonstop for days on end. And, we couldn't cook because we didn't have fire. All I ate for 3 days was, I think, a single olive and like a few handfuls of like dried rice. And the other thing is that when it's dumping like that, you're also not getting water because the water source is decently far away from your shelter. So you're not, you're not going out to find that water. And as a result, you become super dehydrated. Well, I became really sick, and that sickness. So in the middle of this monsoon, while everyone around me is, we're all weeping, we're crying, we're huddled together, I had to run from the shelter and be sick in the woods. And before I left the shelter, I had to like strip off my clothes because, if I got drenched, they weren't getting dry. There was no way to dry my clothes. So I was, therefore like literally like naked, sick in the middle of a monsoon in this, island of Cambodia. And I felt like this is as low as I can possibly go. I mean, physically, certainly we all have emotional lows, and family losses are greater than being, sick in the rain on a TV show. But, I was so beaten down. And then to have that moment, which in some ways it was kind of it was sort of like an empowering moment because I was
cathartic in a way. Well,
yeah, I was like so low. And like I had like nothing left to give, like, certainly from my guts, they were all over the the island. And I was like, but I can still continue. I can still push forward. I have nothing left physically. I'm completely, exhausted, and yet I can still move forward through time. I can still progress forward in this game. And so even as I was at that incredible low, to have that experience of, and yet I can persist was, yet through my willpower I can go on, was very powerful for me. It was very inspiring for me, just in from my own perspective. And the challenge was then, then when that airs on television, suddenly it's like you've got the people, sniping about, oh, look at him, he's sick out in the rain, and you have people like laughing at you, edited in, and your low moment is sort of played for laughs to a certain degree. I mean, it's also played for tragedy and real human emotion. And then the people online are like talking about you, and and it becomes so this moment that is both really deeply it was a personal low, it was a personal high, becomes a subject for other people, to comment on. Many people express sympathy, many people express support. In fact, the vast majority of people express a lot of love, 99% love, but then you have this 1% of people who are just throwing vile and negativity at you and hostility. And
where are they throwing this at you? On Twitter?
Yeah, social media, mostly Twitter, I would say. Some Facebook, some Reddit. But you can.
Reddit.
But if you go to Facebook,
wholesome place that.
Yeah. But I feel like for Reddit, like if you go on Reddit, if you go on Facebook, like you're seeking it out to a certain degree. With Twitter, it like comes at you in a way that you can't really control when someone is tagging you with their hostile thoughts. Obviously, you can just stay off Twitter, which is what I do more and more. But it's the level to have that, and I don't know. It seems so trivial, when you hear about it from someone else or when you hear about it before experiencing it yourself, to have all of this hostility and negativity. You're like, whatever, it's like some stranger tweeting at you, like this person isn't happy with their life or whatever. But then when you receive it, when you receive that negativity and it's personal, it's directed, and it's, and it feels like the judging eyes of the world are upon you, it becomes very raw and very, you feel very vulnerable and exposed.
Yeah. I mean, I admired you in that moment because I remember at some point, maybe I don't remember how many days later the tribe shows up for some challenge and the rain had stopped and you cracked a joke about it.
Right.
Which became its own, I don't know if it was actually hashtagged, but like.
It was not hashtag on the show, but now I will never live it down.
But it was amazing.
What's the hashtag?
It was gastrointestinal distress.
Severe gastrointestinal distress.
Gastrointestinal distress. And like, I admire that so much because I can tell, from the way you're talking about it now and how it must have felt in the moment, like, this is a painful experience.
Yeah.
And the fact that you were able to at least acknowledge it and crack a joke about it and smile at it, even though it was that terrible, not when you got home, not after the episode aired, but right after the moment, I think that's the most important thing.
Well, I mean, that's a nice way of looking at it. It does sort of seem like it's the kind of thing where there's no option but to laugh about it.
Absolutely.
It's so ridiculous that you're like, well, this is absurd. And it's, it's hard. You do try, or one does try to, as you're experiencing lows, to also kind of step outside of them and say, like, this is interesting, or, this is funny, or this is like, what an absurd experience I'm having right now. And even with some of the Twitter negativity, it's like, what a fascinating thing to go through, to have like strangers attacking you online. Like what an interesting thing that's happening now.
It's a unique thing for our generation.
But at
really
the same
is.
time, you have the opposite side of that. You have those people like, leave Stephen alone.
Right. Oh yeah.
He's only eating an olive.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Well, it is true though that the vast majority of people are just so nice and supportive and so loving. But it's like, you can hear it's like that one thing. You're like, but that guy, he said something nasty about me. Like. It's like all of those wonderful comments, as meaningful as they are, just become background noise to that like one negative thing that you fixate on. And I mean, I don't know. What's the solution? It's like mindfulness? Do you just meditate to like let it go?
Do you meditate?
Yeah.
Sometimes I try.
Remembering who you are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
You just got married.
I did. Yeah, well, this is a podcast about disasters. So this is the marriage for me has been a huge success.
That's great.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to ask if leading up to this moment, if there were any kind of disastrous stories in the dating series. If you'd like to bring that up, you don't have to.
Oh gosh,
we've noticed a trend in our recent guests that there's a lot of stories about these things. There was our last interview was a man who called off 2 weddings, that kind of thing.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You know what? Like I just I hate to be a dead guest, but like I just I don't like to talk about the I feel very
understandable.
lucky. I feel like all of those failures led me to a good situation.
Good. Okay, good. Then about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there were so many. Like how does one
I just want to point out for everyone at home that Janelle is eating a slice of pepperoni pizza and trying to keep her head away from the microphone. I don't know why the lights just.
Because I'm a professional, Jacob.
It looks and smells delicious.
Oh, it's a motion sensor. Okay, I understand now. All right.
There's a lot happening right now.
Okay, well then let's go back to Survivor for a minute. So obviously this was kind of a colossal thing. I'm wondering how you felt back after Token Teams. How many years ago was that now?
That was 10 years, and it was interesting because we just had our 10-year anniversary for that season, which was at the time it felt like really latter-day Survivor. This was 2009. The show had been on for 18 seasons. It felt like we were, the show had been going on forever. And now it's like, the show's heading into its 38th season. Like Token Teams was the first half of the show, which was just it blows my mind. Yeah. But it is interesting. Like I felt, to me that was magical in every way. It was you step onto this island, you about to have this crazy adventure, with these other people. Only you share that specific experience. Because what's exciting about Survivor is, and again, sorry, I don't want it to be too Survivor-y.
If we go down this way, it's okay.
Is that the game has rules, the game has a structure, there's challenges, there's competitions, you vote each other out, but everything else is kind of determined by the players in terms of like why you're voting each other out. What matters at the end when you vote for a winner, like how you're spending your time, what are the things that are important to you as a group. And so it's cool that it's like that each group of people kind of determines what Survivor is. And then
that's so stressful.
It is stressful. Well, it is stressful because
I don't want other people to be responsible for my fate ultimately.
Yeah. Well,
that would hurt.
Well, that's what is crazy about it. And I think when people, so about 2/3 of the way through the season, each season, people's loved ones come and visit them, and it's like a month into the show, and all of these
your
contestants.
family comes and visits?
Yeah, you get like one person if you make it that far, and everyone starts breaking down, weeping, and people at home are like, "You've been away from them for a month. Like, why are you weeping?" But it is so stressful, and part of what the stress is that literally everything you do is being observed and judged. Like how long you sleep, if you roll around too much in the shelter, if you snore, how much you eat.
If you annoy people,
if you annoy people, if you tell a dumb joke, if you drop food, you could be you just don't know what's being judged.
So can you do you feel like you can be yourself, or that you're putting on a mask?
I mean, that's the thing. It's like you have to put on a mask. At the same time, you also want to be authentically yourself. So it is that's this tension. I mean, what would you?
No, I'd agree with that. I mean, obviously, I played for a lot less time than you, but even in those, in that week, it's you start to realize that the more you are yourself, the more people can take advantage of that.
Yeah.
I very quickly realized that I wasn't going to be able to pretend that I was there for any other reason than that I was a big fan.
Yeah. Who's with me? Who's against me? Everyone's plotting against me. I mean, that's the rest of it. Yeah. Right. Seriously.
Taking you back to those instinctual, how humans were.
Yeah. It really does.
Years ago.
And that's sort of why come up some of these high school, these formative selves come out. It's like, whatever insecurities you're hiding or you think you're hiding, you just get immediately reduced to them because you're in this crazy judgy social dynamic, because you're literally getting beaten down by the elements, because you're tired, because you're hungry. Suddenly, all of your defenses just get pared away. It's a great show. It sounds good.
Well, I'm wondering because was there anything from either the more recent one or the older one that you were shocked didn't make the air because it was just so ridiculous? I know for me, on our first challenge, we won 20 eggs.
Yeah.
I don't think that made air. I can't remember. We won 20 eggs. And
wait, so food is a prize?
Yeah.
Because there's very little food other than
We had the smallest.
I really thought they were sneaking you snacks.
If only. My God. I know. Yeah.
There's horror stories. Not horror stories. There's rumor stories.
I don't believe. I mean, I certainly never saw anything like that. Really? What are people getting?
Not about us, but about Micronesia, way back.
Oh, thieving, that the contestants would steal from the production. Yeah.
But I know for us, we got these eggs in our first challenge. The one challenge below won, our tribe won. We won all these eggs, and I get back from Ghost Island, and my tribe had boiled all the eggs, and they'd left one for me to have when we got back. And they said, "Hey, in case you're hungry, bet you're hungry." And then I was like, oh, thanks, guys. And I sit down. I go, you already cooked it? They go, yeah. And so I start rolling it on my leg to like crack the eggshell. It just bursts open. It's not even kind of cooked.
Oh, God.
And I get yolk all over my pants. I burned through the one protein source I had for 3 days.
No.
And that's when you turned into the Hulk.
Yeah. Well, no, what I literally did, no lie, scooped as much into my hands as I could and started eating these.
No, you did not.
Oh, yeah. It was the only thing
You ate the raw egg?
I ate some raw. Yeah, I ate as much yolk as I could. I thought it was partially cooked at least because they said they put it in the water.
Yeah.
And that was that. And I didn't get sick or anything.
Jacob!
I was fine. Dude,
I'm so glad I
said-
didn't know you when this was going on because I'd want to kill.
No, I think like the risk of salmonella poisoning is like lower than the risk of like dying of malnutrition just generally. I would eat the raw egg.
Yeah, why not?
People people
does
put
it.
raw eggs. Yeah, exactly. In blenders. Yeah, Rocky does
But no,
it.
I'm mad at the people. Like, couldn't they have cooked it better?
I guess
Did
they
they
could've.
know what they were doing?
I don't know. I still don't know. All I know is I rolled that egg. It burst open on my leg. And if you look closely for the rest of the show, I washed as much out as I could, but there is a weird stain on my thigh on those red pants.
I was dating when I was probably 25. I was dating this girl who I really thought I was going to marry, and we moved together to Paris, where I was working to write, and she was teaching French businessmen English. Like, so we kind of had like. They were not the way we paid for our lives was very sort of like PGs. We were like freelancers, before everyone was freelancers. I was like editing people's college essays like through this service called Essay Edge. I was making like $30 per essay, which would often take like
That's
many hours.
amazing.
It was like decent money, right?
Yeah.
But it would still be like 3 or 4 hours of work, so it ended up like not being great money for
For a living.
yeah, and being, it wasn't like I was just out of college. I was a couple years out of college. Yeah. She was teaching businessmen English, and we were living in this tiny garret apartment in Paris. In Paris, which sounds very romantic, but it was during the coldest winter they had in 30 years. Our apartment was infested with mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes in the winter?
Yeah. And I was recovering from what either was a mild traumatic brain injury or a anxiety attack in response to me thinking I had a mild traumatic brain injury. So yeah, man, you really were unleashing with the well of my greatest horrors.
Yeah.
This is really a cathartic experience. It is cathartic.
Wonderful. Very good.
Yeah. So I was a couple of months prior to that. I had been at New Haven in sort of a reunion for some of my Yale classmates, and cut to a night of carousing and drinking, and then cut to
mosquito.
8 hours later, me waking up and having no memory of much of the night before, which I think a lot of people have had. And I was like, oh crap, I drank way too much, shouldn't have done that. Massive hangover. But the hangover persisted for weeks and then months. And
oh my God.
And then I got really. I also missed the. I also should have mentioned that I also woke up with bruises all over my body, which I had no idea how they got there.
Whoa.
This sounds like a paranormal thing.
You'd think, except my buddy who was with me was like, oh yeah, we were hitting each other, and I was like, so not paranormal, very very normal,
very normal,
very human male.
Yeah, exactly. So I maybe I hit my head, maybe I drank too much, but as a result, I really But then it became this persistent numbness, and for months afterwards, I had this numbness in my head, and I thought that I had a brain injury, and I was working, and this was really traumatizing to my sense of self, because as probably you guys as well, I've conceived of myself throughout my life as my intellect and my brain is my salient part. Yeah. And so to have this fear of I've screwed it up. I damaged the best part of me. All of my potential is now squandered and gone.
And you only get one.
You only get
unless
one.
You're like Elon Musk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He probably has some backups.
Yeah, he's got those brains in a jar to help him whenever. That's exactly it. It's I had potential, and now maybe I can still live a happy life, but I can never lead the truly exceptional life that I was destined or whatever. Those thoughts you have when you and this, so not only was I experiencing these physical symptoms, but that kind of made me pretty depressed. And actually, what eventually cured that was I went to a psychiatrist who specialized in brain injuries. And like this was like probably 6, 8, maybe even more months afterwards.
This is still in Paris.
Yeah, so I was in Paris and yeah. And the psychiatrist said, numbness is not a symptom. I mean, maybe she was lying to me. Please, if she was lying to me, don't tell me, because this has been a really, if you're listening to this, don't tweet at me. Numbness is not, it sounds like what you're describing are not symptoms of brain injury. It sounds like what you're describing is symptoms of a prolonged anxiety attack. And
Whoa.
so it was like, and actually, like, literally leaving her office, it was crazy. Like, I was released. Like, the numbness was gone.
Yeah.
My brain,
The numbness disappeared.
yeah, it did. It was like suddenly I like felt good. And like obviously that suggests that it probably was not a physical thing, right? It probably was an emotional thing. But that experience, I mean, you know, that experience, well, obviously it was great to be at the end of it, but the actual, like, you know, us being trapped together in this apartment when I was depressed, when she was depressed, you know, it was really awful. And we ended up splitting up, of course.
Was this before you got the diagnosis?
I probably was, yeah. And then we ended up, so the trauma was we still like lived together after splitting up. And then we started like fighting. Then she moved like into the apartment below me so we could like hear each other.
Well, this is really, really frustrating.
Yeah, it was challenging. Wow. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's
You're like, shut up! I have a brain injury.
Yeah.
No, that's stupendous. Like, the physical symptoms that emotional distress can create are.
It's scary, and I think a lot of people who are really like trapped in their heads, you know, it's really incredible how powerful your brain is in terms of the way that it manifests in your body.
We've been asking everyone who comes on if there's a certain thing that they go back to that brings them some sort of joy if they're feeling low after something crappy happens.
Yeah.
Or relief.
Like for me, it's a certain album that I listen to.
Right.
You know, for what was it for you?
A lot.
A lot of different stuff.
I haven't. For me, it's a lot of different things. ASMR is one of them.
ASMR is a big thing.
Feeding into my psycho wacko personality.
You've just come up with this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it could be a food, it could be an activity.
I would say there's two things. Maybe, you know, one is a little bit pretentious, and then one is the opposite of that. Like one is a little high culture, and one is not high culture.
Lovely.
The first is I go to my favorite book, which is Bleak House, and I'll read passages from it. And Bleak House is a book by Charles Dickens, and it is just filled with so much joy and humor. You know, he will describe a house, and the way he describes the house is like, it's like he'll make it like a person, he'll make it hilarious, he'll make it like the funniest person you ever met. You know, he describes his characters as these idiosyncratic loons, but he describes them with so much love for them. And you see all of their idiosyncrasies and all of their quirks and all of their great habits and their terrible habits, and they're so like brilliantly and humorously described. And like that sense of joy and of love and of humor that I get from reading Bleak House really kind of like sets me back on the right path in terms of just seeing kind of all like the joy and the humor and the ridiculousness of the world around us. And the
low bar.
And the low is like, I also, one thing I find incredibly relaxing is watching YouTube videos of people playing the card game Hearthstone.
Wait, I need to write this down because this may be some...
Oh, wait. Oh, my God. I remember you tweeting a long time ago about whether or not you should start playing Hearthstone.
What's Hearthstone?
Boy. I played. Oh, jeez.
Oh, my God.
Now
I was like, yes, go for it. Absolutely.
Like it's like a... So you know like the card game Magic the Gathering?
Yes, I've heard of it.
Yes, you do know this because that's what you thought Dungeons and Dragons was.
Yeah.
Okay, we've talked about this.
Magic card game.
So it's basically that, but like on only digitally, only online, and it's like the most addictive card game app.
It's only online?
Yeah, it's only online. There's no physical cards. So you have to you buy virtual packs. You open your virtual pack and you get your virtual cards, I played for a while, and I still sometimes play. It is so addictive. I will play, and I'll be like, I'm just going to play one game. And then, like, 16 hours later, I'll, like, wake up in a pool of, of my own sweat and like, and just be like, what? And I haven't, like, advanced at all. Like, I'm still level 15. But
This is it. I have it on my phone.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe in Paris it was a Hearthstone.
Yeah, exactly.
This would beat you up.
It's magical, and I love it. Have you ever heard of World of Warcraft?
Yeah,
Same
yeah.
company that makes this.
Oh.
So there's a lot of layover, a lot of characters, a lot of themes you see in both games.
So is there a lot of thinking or fantasy involved? So you
Hardcore
escape?
fantasy.
It's less like the fantasy is the sort of overlay, like Jacob's saying. It's kind of like the card is themed to an orc, but it's
You'll
more.
get
It's
some voice actor screaming over it with the orc's voice or something because it's not a physical card game.
Right.
So there you can have big flashy effects, and you'll have some guy coming in with the orc voice and smashing.
Oh, that's
and
fun.
that kind
Yeah.
of thing. So yeah.
And it is a game of strategy, but I was like adequate at the game of strategy, but there are people who are really great at the game of strategy and whose professional lives it is in fact to play it online on Twitch. And they, some of those videos get posted to YouTube, and they're edited down so that you don't have to like wait, 6 minutes between turns. And I just find it really like, I don't know why. That's my. It's just like relax. It's like.
So when you watch people playing it, are you seeing their faces, or are you just seeing the cards?
They're
flipping?
commenting on it, so they're also like they're getting videotaped in as
So like
well.
a reaction
Like a tiny
type.
little corner maybe, or
Yeah.
maybe not even know. It depends.
They'll like describe strategy. So one of the things that I have done in Post Survivor is I will talk about the strategy. I'll like do post show analysis of Survivor and talk about the strategy of the game. And these people sort of talk about the strategy of Hearthstone in a similar way. They're like, well, he played this, which means that I should be doing this, but who knows if that. And to like hear that, like it tickles my brain in the right strategy kind of like pleasure centers. But this is post injury, so those are really numb. But at the same time, it's like something I don't know about, so it kind of like hits all my. It's like very like soothing in a way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That brings me a lot of joy knowing you're still watching because I love that game very dearly. That's awesome, man. I mean, is it just Hearthstone, or do you end up?
No, it's just Hearthstone. Yeah,
funny.
yeah. I don't know. Maybe because I try to not. I've tried to like limit my own addictions.
That's probably a good call.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're gonna see you out in an alleyway, being like, "I need that Hearthstone."
That's what Will something for.
Will blank for Hearthstone.
Yeah.
All right, so you can follow Stephen on Instagram and Twitter at Stephen Fishbach, and listen to Stephen's new podcast, Paraphrase, wherever podcasts are found. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review on iTunes. It helps word about the show spread like wild weeds in the forest. Do forests grow weeds? I don't think so. Anyways, Jake.
Let's just go with it. And of course, make sure you're subscribed to easily download new episodes. I'm Trying is hosted, edited, produced, and scored by Janelle Dennis and me, Jacob Derwin. Our cover art was created by the fabulous Sammy Kappa. See more of her work at sammykappa.com. That's SAMICAPPA.com.
And you can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at I'm Trying Show. And if you want, you can follow us individually at Janelle Dennis and Jacob Derwin.
If you've screwed up or embarrassed yourself and are looking for help,
Or pity.
reach out to us on Twitter or email at imtryingshow@gmail.com, and our team of crisis experts
It's just us.
would be more than happy to assist you.
Reasonably happy.
Thank you so much for listening, and in the words of Jonathan Colton, don't read the comments and don't feed the trolls.